Hey from the kitchen, folks. Today I'm going to be making a nice and simple apple and ginger cider. I'm going to begin by adding a bit of spring water into this jug and then popping that in the microwave for just 30 seconds. I just want to warm it up a little bit. I'm then going to add into my water a nice heaped teaspoonful of Lalvin champagne and cider yeast, in fact a little bit more than that. And I'm also going to add a good teaspoonful of Young's yeast nutrient. I'm just going to give that a little stir together, and I want the yeast to kind of waken up in the warm water and to start to activate with the nutrient. And I want to leave that while I get on with the rest of the recipe. I'm just going to put into this saucepan some spring water. I'm not measuring it, there's maybe 500 ml or thereabouts, maybe a little bit less. And then I'm going to pop into that 4 tea bags, and of course I'm using Yorkshire tea because it's the best tea that there is. So I'm going to put a bit of heat into that, and I'm going to start to boil a strong tea in there. So while the tea is brewing, I'm going to put my apples into my demijohn, and I'm using the turbo cider method, which means that I'm not actually using proper apples, but instead I'm using apple juice from concentrate, which doesn't have any nasty additives or ingredients in that are going to spoil this, and this is just a much quicker way of making cider, the turbo cider method. Have a look at the Facebook group, Turbo Ciders for All. It's the easiest cider you'll ever make. So this is half a packet of Natural Days crystallised ginger, or about 100 grams. It's just ginger and sugar. And all I'm going to do is chop this down into smaller pieces so I can fit it into the demijohn and that I won't get any blockages. And it also gives a greater surface area for the yeast to feed on, which will release more flavour. And instead of using my normal narrow funnel, which I use for liquids, I'm going to use a wide funnel. This is actually a dishwasher funnel for adding dishwasher salt, but it works well for this purpose. And I'm just going to drop my ginger into the apple juice in the demijohn. The taste of the crystallised ginger is absolutely fantastic. It gives a flavour which is very reminiscent of Stone's ginger wine, if you've ever tried that. If you ever mix that with a whiskey and add a whiskey mac, then I reckon you'll like this. So if we just look at the demijohn, you can see in the bottom all the crystallised ginger and plenty of sugar on the top, which needs cleaning off. So back to my tea, which is now simmering, and I'm going to squeeze these tea bags to get all the tannins out. So it's the tannins that you get from the tea, which is why you add tea. And I'm not sure what a massive difference it makes, but I know in other brews where I've used apple and ginger and I've put tea bags in, it has come out tasting really good. So I'm just going to continue to do it that way. So I've removed my tea bags, and here's my tea. So this is a Barnsley Beer Festival 1993 glass, and I bet there's not many of those about. Anyway, it's full of brewing sugar. There's about 200 grams of brewing sugar in that glass, and I'm just going to add that into the tea so it dissolves. This is just going to increase the ABV a little bit. I'm going to stir that brewing sugar in so it dissolves. In fact, it looks like it already has. The water does have a slightly syrupy feel now, which is good. So I'll turn the heat off. And now the tea goes into the demijohn with the apple juice and the ginger. Okay, I'm now going to add some more apple juice into the demijohn to top it up. And I'm purposefully overfilling the demijohn, so don't worry about that. That's perfect. So that's 4 litres of apple juice and 1 litre of tea. Now I've overfilled my demijohn purposefully because I need to pour some out to take the original gravity. And I'm not going to pour that back into the demijohn. I'm going to have a sample of it instead. So I'm just going to pour in. This is my hydrometer flask or tube, whatever you want to call it. I need to take the original gravity at 20 degrees and this is still a little bit warm at 24. So I will finish the cider off instead. And I want to add that now into my demijohn. And look how happy that yeast gets straight away, very cloudy. Now I've overfilled this, I know I have, and it doesn't matter because I'm going to use an airlock initially, but if that fails because this is all coming out of it, if it rises up, then I'll just change it to a blow-off pipe. So it is overly full, but I'm not worried. I'm just going to put the airlock in, and like I say, if it does come out of the airlock, I'll use a blow-off pipe, and if you're not sure what that is, then this is a blow-off pipe. You simply just put that in instead of an airlock, and you put the other end in some water and let it all blow through there until it's had enough for doing that. So I'm just going to give the demijohn a quick rinse, get all the stickiness off the edge. The cider must is now cooled enough for me to take the gravity. It's now 20 degrees. So this is the original gravity. And the original gravity is 1.062. 1062. So here it is in the demijohn, which is now nicely labelled with the name, date and original gravity. You can see the yeast in suspension, suddenly getting quite excited as it begins to absorb the sugar. It will create CO2 which will come up through the airlock. I'll get the nice popping sound. The crystallised ginger is in the bottom, and because it's solid fruit matter it stays there quite a while. In fact, it won't dissolve at all, it will still be there at the end, but it prolongs the fermentation, so the fermentation will take a lot longer than a normal turbo cider would. Anyway, I'm just about to sign off, but I thought I'd just have a little sample of what's in here. And it's very, very good. I can't wait for this one. I'll catch you when fermentation's over, folks. See you then. Good afternoon from the kitchen, folks. Today it's apple and ginger cider clearing day. So here it is. It's only been fermenting for 10 days. I mean, literally, this has been so fast. The last time I used crystallised ginger in a brew, it went on for weeks, but this one stopped bubbling a couple of days ago. It's only started since I've put it in the sunshine on here. Just now again, but this is basically now ready to be cleared. So it's bung out, siphoning tube in. I'm holding the tube in place with a clip, and I've got the bottom of the tube just at the top of the trub, the sediment at the bottom. So now the fun bit. I've definitely got some sediment. I've just had to take the tap off the pipe because it got some crystallised ginger bunging it up. It looks really syrupy, what's coming out. I'm just going to have a little nip to see what it tastes like. Smells incredible. Less gingery and more appley than I expected. It's tasty. It's like a very good dry cider with a ginger sort of aftertaste, almost side taste. The smell, the overarching smell is ginger, but it doesn't come through in the flavour. It's definitely a very appley cider, but quite dry again, and that will be down to the Lalvin yeast. I'm using ClearIt wine finings from Young's. It's a two-step process. I'm going to add a little bit of bottle A, in fact the remainder of what's in here, which is just about a teaspoonful. and that will mix as this then pours in. I seem to have got a bit stuck with a blockage. It's the crystallised ginger that's caused it. I think I'm going to do something I don't usually do, and I'm just going to give it a pour. Much faster. Okay, I'm getting some sludge now, some sedimenty stuff. But I'm not worried because the finings will sort it out. Okay, that's good. All done. I just need to clean this out now. In terms of this, I'm just going to give it a little swish around. And I'm now going to leave it to stand for an hour before I add finings B. So I'll be back in an hour's time. See you then. An hour has passed. I'm now going to transfer this into a different vessel, not the original demijohn. That's already being used for another brew. This is a clean vessel. I've literally just emptied it of spring water, so I know it's completely fine to use. So adding half of this in. Ginger smells so potent. And I'm going to add finings B. So A and B together are what claws the sediment down to the bottom. Now, I've used crystallised ginger before and I've learned from my mistakes. Too late I've learned from my mistakes, but it will be a cloudy cider. And next time I use crystallised ginger, I'm going to put pectolase in, which might, hopefully, get rid of some of the haze. You learn by doing, you learn by brewing. Okay, this vessel's actually just a recycled 5-litre water bottle. I've bored a hole in the lid, and I'm hopeful that it will be airtight once I've pushed the airlock in. Right, I need to leave this for a few days now, see if it clears. I don't think it will, but then I'll come back to it and bottle it. So I'll see you then. Evening from the kitchen, folks. It's ginger cider bottling evening. So let's have a quick look at how it's cleared. Amazingly, it's cleared perfectly. I thought with the crystallised ginger in there that this was not going to clear, but it's absolutely perfect. So before I begin adding the cider, I'm going to just put some carbonation drops in these bottles. It's 3 per bottle, as these are 750ml bottles, and the carbonation drops are 1 per 250ml. So now it's bung out, siphoning tube in. I'm holding the tube in place with a clip. I've got the bottom right down in the sediment, but the first lot that comes out is going to go into the hydrometer jar. So now the fun bit. That's it, get all the sediment heavy stuff in there first. And then onto the bottles. I'm going to stop it there because you can see that there's sediment now in the tube. So I've managed to get 5 750ml bottles and a little taster. I've got my ginger cider bottled. Here are my bungs. They're plastic bungs. I've had them softening in hot water. The hot water makes them more malleable and hopefully easier to get into the bottles. 1, 2, 3. These 2 are tricky ones. They're slightly narrower necks. It's in. Done. Corks are in place. I now need cages, and these will prevent anything flying off with the pressure from carbonation, which does happen. 1, 2, 3, 4, and finally number 5. I now need to give the bottles a rinse to get any sticky residue off, and then I need to leave them to dry before I can label them. I now want to work out the final gravity of this brew, so in goes the hydrometer. That's sunk very nicely, and that is a final gravity of 1.000. That indicates that all of the sugars that are in there have been eaten up by the yeast. So it's time to work out the alcohol by volume for my ginger cider from the original gravity and the final gravity. So I take the original gravity of 1.062 and I deduct from that the final gravity of 1.000, and that equals 0.062. And I multiply that figure by 131.25, and that equals a final alcohol by volume of 8.13%. Let's just say 8.1%. I'm happy enough with that. So all that remains now is for me to print the labels. And then as neatly as possible, just try and get these on the bottles, keeping the seams of the glass bottles at the side, just for neatness, taking a bit of pride in their appearance. And there we go. And now this will condition for 2 weeks. I've got some temperature controlled shelves here. Behind them is a thin radiator. On the bottom shelf is a thermostat connected to this plug, and that keeps these shelves between 19.5 and 20.5 degrees centigrade, and that will be enough to give these some sparkle by activating the yeast in the carbonation drops. So I will be back in a couple of weeks' time for the tasting, so see you then, folks. Evening from the kitchen, folks. It's apple and ginger cider opening night. Excited about this one. I'm looking forward to it. I can see that there's a little bit of expansion happened, as in the bung has very slightly raised by 1 millimetre or 2, so fingers crossed that means there's a bit of life in it. Hopefully not too much. You know what I mean by that. But what I'd like is a nice sparkle if possible. Doesn't have to be too fizzy, just a nice sparkle. Good smell, but above all, a good taste. Now it's not clear. It's been in the fridge, so the bottle's slightly got a bit of vapour on it, but let's see what happens anyway. Bit hard to get off. Right, let's see what this is like to get off. Here it goes. We're going to get a pop. Ooh! Nice bit of vapour. Like it. Right, let's see how it pours. Oh, that's beautiful. Look at that. Dreamy. That's exactly what I wanted. Oh, it smells fantastic. You get a bit of appliness with the ginger as well. The ginger's strong, but you can tell it's cider. That's good. If you like ginger, you will love this. That's really good. You get a roundness of the apple on your tongue, and then the ginger just punches you in the throat, basically. You know, that burn, wow. It's cracking, it's brilliant actually. It's one of the best ciders I've made, I think, or best flavours. Really like it, very, very much recommend this one. So apple and ginger cider, it's a winner. Cheers folks, catch you on the next brew. The film that you've just watched is a Moss Home and Garden production. You can find more by going to www.mosshomeandgarden.co.uk. I'd just like to say thank you very much for supporting my YouTube channel and for watching my films. It really is very much appreciated. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my YouTube channel in order to receive future updates about the home and garden films which I upload. You can find my YouTube channel by going to www.mosshomeandgarden.co.uk. Please click on the red subscribe button. When you've done that, a little bell will appear. If you press that also, then you'll get future updates about the films which I upload. If you like my films, if you like my style of filming, then you might also like my travel channel, which you will find by going to youtube.com/Stuart Moss or type in www.mosstravel.tv. Again, if you could subscribe to that channel, it would be hugely appreciated. If you'd like to get Moss Home and Garden updates on Facebook, then please open Facebook and do a search for Moss Home and Garden, and you will find the page. If you like the page, then you will get future updates on there. And if you'd like to connect on Instagram for home, garden and travel photography, as well as some stories, then my username is StuMoss, STUMOSS. If you'd like to connect on Twitter, then my username is @StuartMoss. And if you'd like to contact me about film usage or any other issue, please just email me on stewmosshomegarden@gmail.com. Once again, thank you very much for supporting my channel, for watching my films. I do appreciate it. I'd just like you all to have a great day.